Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Hello, hello, hello. Have a little bit of a bonus live today, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. Good morning. Hello. Happy Sunday, everybody. I know it's very early for many of you, but this is just kind of a little bit of a bonus live today. Good morning. No really hard thinking or anything. I had some organizing I need to do, and so sometimes I like to just kind of turn my camera on while I'm doing some organizing and kind of talk about some things that I found. So, good morning, good morning, good afternoon. Hello, Deborah. Yeah, so this is just a bonus live this morning. It's not too intense. I just had some paperwork I wanted to organize, and I thought I would just turn my camera on and kind of share my paperwork with everybody. So hopefully everyone's doing okay. Good morning. Hello, hello. I still have my coffee. I haven't finished my coffee yet, but I thought, hello, Kristen. Hello, Jill. Hello, Monica. Hello, welcome. Uh, that's a good question. Have you watched Fox lately? It's like another gym. Oh, I know, Peter. Oh my goodness, everybody. Oh my goodness. There is just so much interesting information out there. That's another reason why I've been kind of going live so many times is because, like, here's some other information. Oh my gosh, I know, Sarah. Oh, I know. That's why I've been kind of coming on quite a bit more. And again, I do plan to be on again tonight for my sub chat Sunday. So this morning's just a very lighthearted. Ready for the Georgia case? Oh my gosh! Oh, the Georgia case, everybody! Oh my goodness gracious! Yes! Oh, Georgia. That'll be very interesting. So, Mark Wahlberg, you're so funny because that didn't actually happen. So, and the interesting thing is that you think that means you haven't done proper research. Is all. Did you check the Secret Service issue? Okay, Murray, check it out. Now, listen, I did, and my understanding, and I could be wrong, and I'm always open to being wrong, and I'm planning to actually pull a little bit more. But my understanding from the rules is that he will have Secret Service with him that he is guaranteed 24-hour Secret Service until he is, until he buys the farm, so to speak. So that's my understanding. But I'm still making sure. I want to make sure I've got the documents in my hand before I do a full post on it. Gonna overturn the jury. Yeah, they can't do that. Yeah, they can't do that. Yes, check your post. Okay. So, yeah, I was looking for your post, and for some reason I could not find it. So I will be on a mission, and I will be hunting that down. Okay, I will be, on a bear hunt looking for that. Hello, everybody. But I'm really interested as well on what exactly is going to happen. So I've seen several different articles about it, and also very interesting the law that was passed regarding that. So I'm still on the hunt. Good morning. Good morning. Does it matter Trump did not go to the convicted felon meeting after the court convened? Oh, I don't know. Went on appeal. Well, yeah, good luck to him. I mean, if he wins on appeal, he wins on appeal. So, I've got no. Oh, absolutely. Hello, Thomas. Hello. Yeah, I've got no thoughts about that one way or the other. Right now, we have a conviction by a jury, and I'll stand by that. What the sentencing is, I do not know, but we'll just see what happens. You don't care about justice? Not true. I've spent my entire life in the pursuit of justice. So as I continue on in my pursuit, everyone, I wanted to turn on my camera to do a live this morning. Now, Deborah, don't exhaust yourself going after the trolls today, all right? You can, feel free, but don't exhaust yourself. All right, so, oh my goodness gracious. So, right. You know what I'm saying, Deborah. You know what I'm saying. Hello, Sarah. Yes, of course. All right. So yes, don't worry about the trolls. It's all right. They're kind of going through some things right now. Now, the reason why I turned my camera on this morning, everyone, is because I have pulled, everyone's been asking, like, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? I have pulled some of the paperwork in multiple jurisdictions that what happens after you are found guilty. So once you're found guilty of a felony, you have to fill out a whole bunch of paperwork. A probation officer comes and talks to you. They fill out a whole bunch of stuff in order to put together a pre-sentence investigation. Now, I've been saying these words like everybody knows what they are because I've been involved in so many of them. But for those who haven't, and again, as an attorney involved, for those who haven't, you may have no idea what I'm talking about. So I pulled some paperwork and I thought, let's go through some of these sheets. Let's go through and talk about what I mean when I say pre-sentence investigation. So these are not going to be exactly the forms that he needs to fill out because I'm not sure that that would be appropriate at this point, but these are forms from other jurisdictions to give you some idea of the questions that they will be asking him. Does any state bar felons from holding office? So good question. Good question. And it is state by state. It depends on each state. They have their own rules. Right. Post-conviction meeting. Right. Well, and again, I mean, there's a lot going on for Mr. Trump. So there's a lot going on here. Florida law says Electoral College you cannot go to a convicted felon. Okay. Could be. Ex-president. Oh, I know. I know. Hi, and good morning to you as well. All right, so let's take a look, everybody. I got this packet here to just kind of go through of some information. So there will be lots of meetings for Mr. Trump, and I just have to be honest with you, for a defendant to miss the first post-conviction meeting is not unheard of. It happens. So not that rare. A lot of the convicted defendants don't like to go to those meetings. So eventually, if the court has to, the court will use its jurisdiction in order to force their appearance. But I'm not sure that we're at that stage yet at all. So here we go. We've got, again, this is some paperwork that Mr. Trump's going to need to fill out. Not exactly these papers here, but we should tag him. Yes, that might be helpful. So this is a federal form, all right? So let me just take you through a little bit here. Having been convicted in the United States District Court, so this is a federal case. This is what he would have if he was in Florida or D.C., something like this. All right, the probation department is required to complete a pre-sentence investigation report for the court. The pre-sentence investigation report will contain factual information relevant to your sentencing, including information regarding your personal history. To assist in that process, please complete this packet in its entirety. The information contained in this packet will be discussed with you in detail during the present pre-sentence interview and will be relied upon for the completion of your pre-sentence investigation report. You may utilize additional pages to provide the requested information if necessary. All right, so again, this is just to give you an idea of what kind of the ballpark we're in here. In addition to incorporating the information contained in this packet and obtained from you during the pre-sentence interview, your pre-sentence investigation report will indicate the documentation you provided for corroborative purposes. As such, please provide photocopies, electronic photocopies preferred, of the below noted documents if applicable. So one of the things I think a lot of people maybe aren't thinking about, and of course, if you're not in the system, you don't work with it, you wouldn't be thinking about it, is part of the pre-sentence investigation is a request of forms. You have a lot of forms, a lot of different documents that they're going to be asking for. Here's a list. And there's also going to be a whole bunch of you're going to have to sign a whole bunch of waivers, meaning different forms to allow your probation officer or the person doing the investigation to have access to your history records. So medical records, military records, all of those kinds of things. You have to sign a waiver so that they can go in and look at those records. So that's kind of part of it as well. Yes. So here we go. Let's take a look at some of the documents that he's going to need. Again, this is for a pre-sentence investigation. So this isn't even, he's not sentenced yet. This is part of the information gathering process here. Each account comes with its own batch of paperwork. Absolutely, that's correct. That's correct. So, birth certificate for you and your children, immigration documents, naturalization certificate if applicable, marriage certificates, divorce decrees as well. So all of his marriage certificates, all of his divorce decrees, he's going to have to find those. Social Security card, SSI benefits letter, personal and corporate tax returns for the past 3 years. Let's just put a star next to that one just for fun. All right, let's just put driver's license and current car registration, school records, including diplomas and any professional licenses or certifications, any paperwork to confirm past and present employment, and other sources of income. So all of his sources of income have to be given over. Now, again, he has to comply with this or he will be in contempt of court. This pre-sentencing investigation is a requirement here. So this is part of what he needs to do in order to do his sentencing. Medical records and prescription lists from the pharmacy if currently under treatment for any physical or psychiatric problems. Most recent bank statements for all accounts, investment account statements, credit card bills, and car student loan payments. So again, this is the information that will be requested. Oh my goodness. Next, apartment lease or mortgage note or other means to verify housing costs. So that's important. And your resume. So I don't know exactly what that would look like for Mr. Trump, but he does need to provide a resume there. Will this information be made public? So I do not know. This is kind of private information, and it will be put in our probation officers aren't allowed to necessarily advertise the information that they gain. Some things are public, but some things aren't. If anything is included in a court filing, then it would be. So if these documents or copies of these documents are for some reason attached to the pre-sentence investigation, that would be, but I'm not sure that that would actually occur here. There really shouldn't, unless there's a problem with one of these or they're using it as a way to explain what their thoughts are on what the sentence should be, these should not be included. People will find it, well, All right, so here we go, everyone. Again, we're just kind of going through the question. Mr. Trump will get a packet like this, or he'll be, his lawyers will be given a packet, whatever, and he'll have to go through and fill out this information, all right? So here we go. Supplemental to worksheet for pre-sentence report. Personal identification. So name. You know, can you imagine Mr. Trump sitting down and having to fill these forms out, though? I mean, just think about that as we go through this. He has to sit down and fill out these reports. And it's possible they may call him into the office and say, sir, you need to sit down and fill out these reports. Oh, my goodness. All right, so name. List every name you've ever used. Name given at birth, name given at adoptions, nicknames, and so on. Names used as a result of marriages, date of birth, age, race, and basic information, country of citizenship, other identification numbers, legal address, legal current residence address, pretrial officer name, if applicable. So I don't know who his pretrial officer name is. We've got residence history, and so then he needs to write down all of the places where he's lived before. Oh my goodness. And then summarizing the residence history. So that goes here. We have parent-sibling information. So who's the father, mother, and what their health is. All of his siblings need to be listed. Additional family data here. Contact information for step-parents, adoptive parents, and so on as well. Next up, we have marital romantic relationship history. Now, oh my goodness, everybody. All right, so I can picture him sweating. I know. So presently single and no marital relationship history. You can check that, or you need to put down the person, the age, the residence, the occupation, the dates of their relationship, and the number of children. So, oh my gosh, can you imagine, just for his wives? I mean, let's not include all of the other relationships, all right, everyone, but just for his wives, he has to remember their name, their age, so like when's their birthday, where they live, right? I mean, I know one has passed, but what's their occupation? What's their income? Like, he needs to know that information or he needs to find it. I just think, like, wow, you need to pause for a minute, sir. And then dates of their relationship. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness gracious. Can he ask for more pages? Yes, indeed. And then the number of children. So you'd fill that out. Now, he probably would just need to do his marriages. I would doubt that he would have to do any of his others. It is really intense, but that's what I'm saying too. That's why I think it's important to kind of go through this so you can see what kind of information is being requested. So here we go. So children, so your child's name, it doesn't matter if they are living with you or not or how old they are. You need to just fill this out. Child 1, 2, 3, 4, where they live, where they're employed, any financial support. So that's another question for them. I don't know. Oh my goodness. Yes, this is a pretrial sentence information that needs to be filled out for anyone who has been found guilty. So this is, again, just not specific to the jurisdiction he was found guilty in. These are just general questions to give you some idea of what it would look like. So child 5, 6, 7, and 8 here. Physical condition. All right, so we have to fill this out. Yes, for paying fines and various other things as well, yes. I mean, all of your information, none of that's private anymore. Once you're a felon, your privacy rights are over. That Fourth Amendment that is so precious for us all, that everyone forgets about because it's not the Second Amendment, but those precious, precious privacy rights, you don't have those anymore when you're a felon. That right is gone. So here's our physical condition, health, and no history of health problems. I suppose you could check that. List the dates and causes of any serious chronic illnesses, medical condition, past and present. For any prior hospitalizations, be sure to indicate where and for how long as well. List all current prescriptions, and that is definitely a must. Oh my goodness. Name, address, and telephone number of all your physicians. So there you go. That has to be filled out. Mental and emotional health. Oh my goodness. So no history of mental or emotional health problems, no history of treatment for such problems, could very well be. Describe any past or present mental, emotional, or gambling problems, including diagnosis of any problems, if known, and the dates of any treatment. List the name and addresses of the treatment providers here, all of that. Well, yes. I mean, if you're a woman and you are able to get pregnant, your Fourth Amendment rights are definitely questionable. But for everyone else, we are very important that we have those. By the way, everyone, as we go through this, I have set the setting to 18 plus for this live today, just because we need to make sure that no one under 18 is here. Why would the courts need this info? So they use this in order to make their decision on what's appropriate. They also use it to rely on later on down the road. So what happens if he lies on these forms? Well, then he can get into trouble. You have to be honest with your probation officer because they're going to find out. I mean, the pre-sentence investigation, if it is inaccurate, then the state can say, Your Honor, by the way, during this pre-sentence investigation, the defendant lied, and the judge can take that into consideration as a factor when sentencing. So we also here have substance abuse issues, any of those, if there's any history. And then also, even if it's not abuse, they're asking if you've had any use of these kinds of things here. Opiates, all of these kinds of things. Again, alcohol. Which substance did you use most frequently? Which one has caused you the most issues or problems? Detailed history of treatment, if you have that. Word of the state. Well, I mean, you're definitely now. You are right. I'm not sure ward of the state is quite proper, but until you're sentenced officially. But yeah, I mean, you the state, the government has your privacy rights. Won't they be doing it? Well, probably, Sheila, probably. He has a digestive concern, could be. So this is a PSI just in general. This is a federal form. So I didn't want to give out the exact New York PSI form, but I wanted to kind of show everyone the questions that would be asked here. So these are some questions on a pre-sentence investigation form. So kind of a general idea of what kinds of questions Mr. Trump will need to fill out. So educational, vocational skills here, higher education, name and city, degree, military branch service as well. I don't think he's got any of that. We just did substance abuse, so let's move on. Didn't he skip the meeting? Well, right. And many people found guilty do skip that first meeting, although they shouldn't. And if it becomes a habit, that could really be an issue because then you'll be filling these forms out in jail. And no one wants that. So, you got to kind of take care of business here. Yes, I know. Well, right. Employment history. So we've got his employment history. So he would probably put like self-employed is what I'm imagining. Self-employed is what he would put on here for his employment history. That shouldn't be too difficult. Summarize all additional prior employment in the prior to the last 10 years. Oh, I guess he would put President of the United States on there. So that's a good question, actually. So he would have to put self-employed, and then the 4 years he was president of the United States, he would have to put that down, but he would have to list the date, the time on that, because he can't be self-employed while president. So he's going to have to be careful about that language because he doesn't want to get in trouble with the emoluments clause, right? Yeah, president's a job, yeah. So that would be, and then just self-employed would be the rest of that. So I guess he's had 2 jobs, everybody. Oh, my goodness gracious. Oh, where we are. All right, so pre-sentence investigation. Yes, there are forms that you have to fill out before the judge actually sentences you after you've been found guilty. Reason for leaving field kill. Oh, my goodness gracious. Oh, my gosh, that's fun. All right, so employment history. We have to be lighthearted, everyone. We are getting hammered right now. We are just absolutely getting the trolls. The trolls are on patrol here. Good morning. So we have to be able to chuckle here and there. I think that's important. All right. Does he have to state other court cases? Well, good question. Let's see. So you have employment history. And then here, acceptance of responsibility statement. And I don't see it in this particular set of forms, but I would imagine, yes, if he has any ongoing criminal cases, he would have to put that in. But then again, there is a criminal history that's set out as well, so it might be included in that. But look at this, everyone. Acceptance of responsibility statement. Decline to provide a statement regarding the offense or a statement regarding the offense. So here's a whole little page where you can write out your acceptance or responsibility for the crime you've been found guilty of. And you can write that down in there. And then the judge, let's just put the judge on the screen here, and then the judge will look at that statement and acknowledge whether or not you have kind of owned up to what the situation is here. Right, yes, exactly right. It impacts state sentencing. So that's what makes this pre-sentence investigation or set of work. So let me just show you here again what this is. So this is a little packet. Again, I just picked a jurisdiction. This is a federal jurisdiction. I'm not choosing the exact one for New York. That was a bit macabre in my opinion, but to give you some idea. And so this is what he has to fill out, something like this, prior to sentencing. So this is the PSI, so pre-sentence investigation. So this information is all gathered, and then the probation officer gathering the information will send out a report. So that's the pre-sentence report. Give that to the judge along with both sides, and then the judge will make a decision. So next up, again, and these are just some random forms, random jurisdictions. Will this be made public once it's filled out? Great question. Now, a lot of this information really is private. Like, it's okay for the government to have it, but it's not something that, like, it's not a court document, so it wouldn't be public information. And I'm not sure because we did have a lot of information that was actually sealed in this case for privacy concerns. So I would not think that this information would somehow be just out there for anyone to get. It seems like there would be a few hurdles you'd need to overcome in order to get this information. But the government will have this information now. The state of New York will have this information. I know. They're really angry, Jan. I know. Oh my goodness gracious. All right, so let's get all right, here's another page. Again, this is not the exact form, but instructions for completing the personal financial statement. Now, I thought this was interesting, right? Because we've had another case involving a personal financial statement, which kind of led to some trouble. Having been convicted in the United States District Court, so that's federal court, you're required to prepare and file with the probation officer an affidavit fully describing your financial resources, including a complete listing of all assets you own or control as of this date, and any assets you have transferred or sold since your arrest. In addition, hold on, why aren't cameras and microphones allowed at trial? Who makes that decision? So, right, so typically the judge will make that decision. Now, here's the thing. Let me explain something real quick because the lots of people are coming after people for not having cameras in the courtroom. If having a camera in the courtroom would disrupt the defendant's right to a fair trial, the judge will prohibit the cameras. So Judge Merchan said Mr. Trump's right to a fair trial and his due process rights would be hindered if I allowed cameras in the room. So he kept the cameras out because he was looking towards the rights of the defendant. So keep that in mind. You might say, oh, well, they couldn't show what was going on. No, that's not how it works in court. The cameras and the public information that is seen and how it's presented, the judge has control over in order to make sure the defendant's rights are not violated. All right? Now, New York does allow, in some situations, I think in their civil cases, some of it may be allowed. Right. Other states will be able to view these documents. I do not know the privacy rights of probation or pre-sentence investigation documents out of New York. I just do not know. It was the right decision. Well, right. I mean, there's a lot of situations now. If you think about O.J. Simpson, of course, that's the easiest one that comes to mind in Los Angeles, and the courts, the cameras that were allowed there. So, very interesting situation, but it's up to the judge, and typically there will be rules, like in the federal system, they do not allow cameras, and then whatever in New York are the rules, no matter what the rules are, the judge ultimately has that decision about whether or not to allow them. And if you remember, Judge Engeron had originally said we could have cameras, and then it turned into such a huge ordeal when he came to court that morning. He said, no cameras. The morning of trial, he said, no, I'm not going to permit it because I don't think we're going to be able to have a proper process here of the law. So, all right, so here we go. So that's another piece here. We've got instructions for completing that personal financial statement. So all of his finances need to be made not public, but given to the probation officer, the pre-sentence investigation. So here's again a glance at that sheet. Banning cameras with it. Well, right. I mean, you have to wait out, and the judges have to wait out. And Judge Merchan's got so much experience. He's going to be able to figure out, like, is the defendant going to be negatively impacted? That's what it's all about. Everything is all about the defendant. So here's our net worth. We have assets listed here, and then what kind they are, life insurance, safe deposit boxes or storage space, motor vehicles, real estate, money owed to you by others. That's interesting. He may need a little bit bigger square. He may feel like the square's too small. Oh my goodness. All right, next we have other assets like cash on hand, jewelry, art, paintings, coin collections, stamp collections, collectibles, antiques, copyrights, patents, etc. I'm not sure what the brand would be worth, but he could list that here in other assets. Anticipated assets, including any assets you expect to receive or control from lawsuits for compensation for damages, and so on here. Trust assets also would be included. So, good morning, Suze. Yes, we're just looking at some kind of forms for pre-sentence investigations. So, just some kind of information that Mr. Trump will be needing to give to the state of New York. Not enough room. I agree. What they're owed. Oh, I know, Kristen, I know. Business holdings, including all businesses in which you have an ownership interest or with which you've had an affiliation within the last 3 years. Self-employed, sole proprietor, officer, shareholder, board member, partner, associate, and so on. So that's included. And then we have income tax returns. Oh my goodness gracious. Tax returns. Information has to be given. Oh my gosh. So, right, you have to share that. Put that information in there. Transfer of assets. Include any assets you have transferred or sold since the date of your arrest with the cost or fair market value more than $500. Also list any assets that someone else is holding on your behalf. Oh my goodness. All right, name of shareholders or partners in your business holdings is also included here. Assets you will liquidate, prospect of increased assets, and then liabilities. So charge accounts, lines of credit here, other debts like mortgage loans, student loans, delinquent taxes. Party to a civil suit, include any civil suits that you are a party to. That would all be included in here, right? We've got several cases going on right now that are civil cases. Oh my goodness gracious. I'm sorry, everybody. I gotta drink some coffee. I gotta pull myself together here. I mean, just seriously, imagine him sitting at the table having to fill out this form. I mean, come on. Can they use any of this information to charge for additional crimes? Well, sure. I mean, if you write down a crime, then of course, and they can assess the situation, they could, sure. Those squares are too small. I agree. So, right. Party to a civil suit, bankruptcy filings have to all be included. Let's look at that one. Chance he will be incarcerated with all these new gag order. So I'm not sure. I really don't know. I mean, I think at this point we've got the verdict. We've got, the judge is going to have to assess the level of danger. So the level of danger, the level of harm, because we've got sentencing set. So, if the judge doesn't have to come in and issue further orders, that's probably his preference. But if Mr. Trump doesn't get himself under control here, then the judge is going to have to, set things up. I mean, he's not out of the woods. He doesn't have a free pass to say whatever he wants now. In fact, of course, he has to give all of this information now to the state of New York. This form publicly available for each convicted person. Now, that I do not know. This information is private information, but private has a lot of different meanings. The state that you fill this information out for, the federal government, of course, has access. But who has access to the government's forms is the question you would ask, all right? Bankruptcy filings, so we have to list the type, the case number, the court of jurisdiction, the county and state of discharge, the date it was filed, and the date of discharge. So that's quite a bit of information. Oh my goodness gracious. So there's quite a bit there. Yes, quite a bit. All right, so here's the monthly cash flow, everyone. So again, Mr. Trump's going to have to fill these forms out in good faith when he gets pulled in. So here we go. Your salary, wages, your cash advances, your cash bonuses, commissions, gratitudes and tips. I don't know, business income, interest that he gets every month, dividends, rental income, monthly income received from real estate properties. Ooh, that's going to take some. Well, and it's tough, right? Because his chief financial officer's in jail. I shouldn't say that. It's not very nice. He's gonna have somebody else that's gonna know these numbers, right? There's gotta be somebody. Oh my gosh, I can't help it. Trust income, alimony, child support, Social Security, SSI, Social Security disability. I'm not mocking anyone. I am just stating facts, all right? Other government benefits listed here: pensions, annuities, allowances, housing, auto travel, spouse, significant other salary, wages. So I think this is interesting. List all gross and net monthly salaries and wages received by your spouse or significant other. Is this info for him? Well, it's all of this information is gathered in order for Judge Mershon to determine what the best sentence is. So he looks at his past, his history, what's going on right now, how successful he is, the things that are going on right now. That's how the judge determines what's the most appropriate thing. One of the things, if you take a look here, we have alimony and child support, for example. Now, if there was a defendant found guilty and he or she paid huge alimony child support, and so if they were sentenced to prison for 10 years, they wouldn't be able to make any money. So there would be children without getting child support, and a wife or an ex-wife without child, or husband without any alimony. So this is something the judge would consider. If this person goes to prison, they're unable to provide the basics for other people. So who else is impacted by them going to prison? Right, there's a ton of documents to go through. So, and that's something to consider. That's absolutely something to consider. Also, if you are running a business, if then all of the people working in your business are going to be impacted. So it's more than just one person when you sentence them. It's a lot of other people, and the judge needs to see that. So it may make no difference whatsoever. Like for Mr. Trump, I don't think it will make a difference, of course. I'm not sure how much Marla Maple. Does Marla Maple get alimony? That's a good question. Oh, anyway, the point is, this information is important for the judge to take a look at and assess in all defendants' cases. So there's no special forms just for Mr. Trump. He has to fill out the forms just like everybody else who has been found guilty of felonies. Be able to use this information regarding the money. Probably, because she is the Attorney General of the state. I think she would have access to these records. Oh my goodness. So here we go. Spouse, significant other salary, their joint spousal income. So any other income from his spouse. I wonder if he's ever been asked that question, if there's any income from his spouse. I think that's a good one. Income of others in-house. So living in the household, gifts from family, gifts from others, loans from your business, mortgage loans, other loans, and then others here. So with that, you put your gross down, you put your net down, and then those numbers come out as well. She gets $1 million a year? Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think the AG James would say, basically, she would be able to come in and double check the numbers. I think that would be something she could do. Rent or mortgage here. Groceries. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, right. This is normal. This is normal for normal people. Necessary monthly expenses. And this is something you would fill out no matter what. Anytime you're in the system, you'd fill this out. Groceries, utilities, electric, heating, oil, gas, water, telephone, basic cable, insurance. Here, clothing, laundry, transportation, auto loan, lease payments, other loan payments, credit card payments, medical. List all monthly payments for necessary medical care, treatment, or prescription medications. Alimony, child support, co-payments. So list the total monthly payments made for electronic monitoring and drug or mental health treatments. So electronic monitoring, what if he refuses to fill them out? Well, right. I mean, again, and then that's what happens then. And you have to picture in your mind, this is all defendants. If he's like every other defendant, do you think that someone who's found guilty of 34 felonies doesn't want to fill out this pre-sentence investigation packet? Of course they don't. So what happens to those defendants when they don't fill out the paperwork that's required? Well, it's going to reflect badly on them because of the sentencing. The judge will take a look and see and say, wow, you didn't even do the bare minimum to help us work with you and you work with us to come to a solution on this. You didn't do the bare minimum. You didn't fill this information out, so I'm going to have to just guess about it. And the judge is probably not going to be very happy about having to just guess about that information. And so if you don't fill the paperwork out, or you do fill the paperwork out, is that more or less likely you're going to go to prison? So somebody who fills the paperwork out, are they going to go to prison? More or less likely than someone who doesn't fill the paperwork out. Right, exactly. So you have to kind of put it into that situation. And Mershon has done so many of these. 1 million? Oh my goodness gracious, that's a lot. Oh, okay, Tiffany. Okay, Tiffany's over 21 though. I think she's married now, actually. Right? You think he skipped his to? Oh, I don't know. I think a lot of defendants skip their first hearing because they're upset and they don't want to go. This is very typical, normal defendant behavior, everyone. All right. As someone who has seen this in the criminal justice system, if you just remove the name Trump, this is pretty typical. Like, I don't want to fill out the forms. Well, something bad's going to happen then. Or I don't want to show up to the hearing. Well, something bad's going to happen then. We have a serious problem with authority here. And that is really, a lot of our defendants are that way and feel that way. And so the court is used to forcing defendants to do what they don't want to do because that's what's required. Oh my gosh, 2 million. Okay, I got you now. Wow, that's a lot. So, and that's what this is all about, right? Psychological inability. That's a good question. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that, he doesn't get any exceptions here. He doesn't get to, well, I'm special. I don't have to fill out the form. No, you have to fill out the form, dude. And if you don't want to fill it out, then you're going to have sanctions just like everybody else. What those sanctions are will depend on the situation. Will a drug test be given? Probably. I would imagine that's required in almost all cases. I can't imagine a case where you've been convicted of a felony and you haven't had to do a drug test, or drop a UA, as we would say it. Those are required for our felons. Not only are they required, but your DNA is also required, so it can be entered into a database. So everything that any defendant convicted of a felony would have to do, Mr. Trump has to do. There are no exceptions just for him at this point. And Judge Mershon has made that very clear, that he does not get to have special treatment here. Can he just tell his lawyer to fill it all out for him? He certainly can. And if that information is not accurate, then it's not accurate. And then also, if Judge Mershon cares one way or the other, he'll let him know. But yeah, you can have other people fill it out. Will the drug test results be made public? I don't believe so. Usually our stats and our UA information, that's not necessarily public. I mean, that's kind of, again, within that government realm. Like, if you think about it, criminal records are only public to some extent. Like, you can pull people's criminal records, but only the amount that's actually been made public. But there's a lot of criminal histories, a lot of prior criminal acts that the government has access to that the public doesn't. Has no priors, you're going to get a lighter sentence, right? It will figure in heavily. It will be a heavy factor here, a heavy factor. Now we've got virtual currency questionnaire, and this has to do with like Bitcoin and stuff and cryptocurrency. So again, this is just another assessment of assets here. I think that's interesting that they have a whole form for the virtual currency on this. How does the judge determine? I think he'll be able to figure it out, and I think the prosecutors probably got a pretty eagle eye going on. So I would imagine the prosecutors will have access to all of this information too. I would imagine, again, jurisdictions work a little bit differently, but most of this information that's available to the government, and the prosecution is also the government. Can it be found if it's been expunged? Usually what will be found is the expungement on that. You don't think you'll fill it out? Well, right. I mean, it's a good question. All right, so authorization. Now, here's the other thing, everyone. He has to sign a release of information to the probation officer in order for that probation officer to gather the information for this. As far as I know, Cozy, the gag order is still in place. There's been no order revoking it, and the proceedings have not finished because we have sentencing going on. Do civil crimes get considered? Well, I think civil is a different category, but the judge can consider all kinds. I mean, the judge can consider everything. So basically, anything that you can fit on a door, all of the information that's possible, then the judge can take a look at it. But how much it weighs, we just don't know. So again, I want you to picture Mr. Trump is going to have to sign waivers of personal information. So here's the form here, authorization to release confidential information for substance abuse and mental health treatment programs. So he has to sign this so that the person doing the PSI can get that information. Again, imagine Mr. Trump having to waive his privacy rights. I mean, it's so much. So, authorization to release information to the probation officer. So, again, let's take a look at this. To whom it may concern, I, Donald Trump, the undersigned, hereby authorize the probation office of wherever or its authorized representative or employees bearing this release or copy thereof to obtain any information in your files pertaining to my employment, education records, including but not limited to academic achievement, attendance, athletic, personal history, disciplinary records, medical records, psychological and psychiatric records. I hereby direct you to release such information upon request of the bearer. Can you imagine how upsetting this is going to be for him? Too late to apply to be probation. Yes, yes it is. So he has to sign this. Again, and this is something that the judge won't play with. If he refuses to sign, then the probation officer can ask the judge and say, hey, he's not signing the releases. And so the judge can force that situation. All right, here's another one. To release government, state, or federal information to probation officer. I, again, Donald Trump, the undersigned hereby waive my rights under the Privacy Act and authorize the disclosure to the probation office here or its representative, waive any rights. I think this is really important. This is what I'm talking about. Now, again, this is a federal form, everyone. New York will have its own specific form. I hereby waive any rights I may have under the Privacy Act to prior notice of such disclosure or of any rights I may have to an accounting of such disclosure to the aforementioned probation office. I understand that this authorization will be used by the aforementioned probation office to request disclosure of information pertaining to me from any and all federal or state agencies. This information is to be obtained for the purpose of conducting a pre-sentence investigation and making a report for supervision. Regarding protected health information, I understand this information is valid until my release from supervision, at which time this authorization to use or disclose this information expires. I understand that information used or disclosed pursuant to this authorization may be disclosed by the recipient and may no longer be protected by federal or state law. So this is what I am talking about, everyone. When you become a felon, your privacy rights are no longer what they once were, and there's nothing you can do about it. Regarding protected health information, I understand I have the right to revoke this authorization in writing at any time by sending such written notification to the program's privacy contact. So he can request that if he's got protected private information. All right, so he will have to sign that. Access to financial records for the pre-sentence report. He's got to sign away any of the privacy rights there. And then authorization again for health information. Oh my gosh, is my toner? Oh my gosh, everybody, look at this. I think my toner's dying again. How did this happen? I just changed my toner. Oh my gosh. Maybe it's just the sheet. Maybe the sheet's bad. Fingers crossed, everybody. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I know exactly, right? All right. Sometimes the process itself, oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Sometimes the process itself is part of, that accountability moment. Authorization to release confidential military information. That's important. So any of these, take it out and shake it. I will. I will have to do that. I don't know. I mean, does the middle look like it's a little bit weaker? I don't know. We'll keep looking, everybody. So any of that information about Vietnam, yeah, that information, that's all public. Millions do this every day. VC, exactly. That's something that I think is important. We've been saying, look, here's a huge spotlight on the courtroom, but now let's take a look at how our defendants are treated as well. What every defendant has to go through, and I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying these are things that everybody has to go through. So in order to have that, right. He will need to, well, right. So we have a pre-sentence investigation questionnaire here. So this is just another form, another jurisdiction. So regular information, accommodation. How do you like the place you live? Do you rent or own your residence? How long have you lived there? Do you plan on moving? If so, when and why? With whom do you live? So this is where we get into more personal questions to help the officer make an evaluation. So probation officer here. So again, this is a questionnaire by an agent, and this is just a random jurisdiction again, everyone here. Here we go. List your last 3 addresses, your criminal history, juvenile record. Ooh, that's interesting. All right. So your juvenile record, a lot of people don't think about, but it's important. And that's something that the judges do look at. They look at, were you in a lot of trouble when you were a kid? Now, I believe Mr. Trump had some bullying issues when he was a kid, if I can remember, but I don't think that there's any full documentation of that, so I don't think that has to go. So glad I found you to go over this stuff. The stuff no one ever tells you. Oh, I know, right? I mean, this is the stuff that if you know how it works, then it makes the whole process easier. It's like, oh, I see why they did that now, because you understand how the process works. All right, so here's your juvenile record here. Were there any offenses? It doesn't matter how old you are now. If you had a juvenile record, it has to be included. Were you on juvenile probation? An interesting thing, too, is if you were on juvenile probation, then this probation officer will contact that probation office and look at those records, and they'll pull all of that. And it doesn't matter how long ago it was. Adult record. So do you have an adult record? This is very important. This will weigh heavily on the sentence. List of all convictions, arrests, summons, or whether convicted or not. So this is if you've just been arrested. You don't even have to be convicted. So convictions and arrests, or if you've just been asked to come to court. So all of those need to be included. Do you have any pending charges? So this is that moment that people were asking me about. Do you have any pending charges? Yes. Mr. Trump has pending charges. If yes, please describe. So he will have to list out that he has pending charges in other states and in other jurisdictions. So this is an important question that is listed here. Next, have you ever been in an adult probation or parole? Have you ever been involved in a gang? Yes or no? And I think they use specific gang as how it's defined by the code, not a RICO situation. There's not enough lines to see attached document. My goodness. All right. As a juvenile or adult, have you ever had probation, parole, or work release violations? Have you ever had your probation, parole, or work release revoked? If yes, what were the new charges, technical violations such as dirty UAs, absconding, etc.? Have you ever been incarcerated? Yes or no? Have you ever had any reports or write-ups while in jail, prison, or a halfway house? Yes or no? Have you ever escaped or attempted to escape from your youth or adult correction facility? Have you ever been in trouble for fighting, been assaultive, or used forms of violence? Again, he has to answer these questions. Just being asked these questions is going to be very difficult, I think. It's difficult, I think, for anyone, honestly. But again, this is the moment where he can recognize that he is a defendant, just like any other defendant. Just to keep your job. Well, exactly right. Exactly right. Right. Exactly. Have you ever used a weapon against another person? Do you have any weapons in your home? Have you ever had a driver's license in another state? And now we get into family background, father's name here. How many times has your father been married, divorced? How many children does he have? Does he now or has he ever had psychological problems, alcohol or drug problems? Has he ever been convicted of a crime? Has he ever been violent towards you or anyone else? Again, friendly reminder, we are on an 18 plus today, just to make sure we are okay. Mother's name, maiden name, birthplace, date of birth, address, telephone, employer, position held. How many times has your mother been married and divorced? How many children does she have? Does she now or has she ever had psychological problems, alcohol or drug problems? Has she ever been convicted of a crime? Has she ever been violent towards you or anyone else? So that's because that's a civil case, that will be under a different section. Because of that. So the civil information is very important and will be included, but it'll be included in a different place. Do you have step parents? If yes, list them. Name, date of birth, address. List your brothers and sisters. Name, address, phone number, occupation. Do any of your siblings have psychological problems? Are there penalties for lying on this form? Well, yes. Now, the thing is, we're not looking at, okay, you're going to go an extra 5 years in prison for lying on your PSI. But if you lie on your PSI and then you're in front of Judge Mershon and Judge Mershon's like, half of your form was false information, that's going to significantly consider weigh on your sentence. Not only that, but he's also been found guilty of false information felonies. So he puts false information on his forms and he's been convicted of false information on felonies, then he may need to have a little bit harsher of a sentence in order to get him sorted out. Do you see what I mean? Does it count against you or is mitigating trauma? It can be mitigating, typically, is how judges tend to view it. It can be a mitigating feature, and a lot of times defendants will include that in their report. They'll say, this is how I grew up, and then where I grew up, this kind of behavior was okay, it was acceptable, it was allowable. This isn't going to, there's not necessarily a number of points assigned, but it's something that judges will take a look at. Is it going to weigh as heavily as whether or not you filled out the form properly or whether or not you have prior record? No, absolutely not. But it can be a piece of it. All right, so childhood, where did you grow up? Who were you raised by? Describe your childhood. Were there any problems during your childhood? Yes or no? And I think that is appropriate to have, your background included. Now, how heavily that will weigh, we will have to find out. Do you think he'll get jail time? I think it's possible. List the towns you've lived in and the dates you've lived there. Have you ever been a victim of abuse or criminal behavior? You would probably say yes, Mr. Cohen. How would you describe your relationship with your parents or your step-parents? And number 4, how often do you have contact with them? So next up, how would you describe your relationship with other relatives? How often do you have contact with them? He could say, isn't his niece, hasn't he been trying to sue his niece? I think that's important to know. All right. How have they reacted to your offense? That's a good question. How have your kids reacted to your offense? I don't know. That's good. I think that's a valuable question. Education. List of names of schools, dates you've attended. Did you graduate high school? Did you have a GED? Did you ever repeat a grade? Were you ever expelled or suspended? That's a good question. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I think, again, it's just gathering information for the judge to be able to use. Describe any problems you experienced in school regarding attendance, behavior, getting along with other students and or teachers. So this is where some of that bullying information might come in, although maybe it won't. Maybe he won't want to include that. What school organizations or special activities did you participate in? Do you have a learning disability? Have you ever been diagnosed with attention deficit disorder? Do you plan to improve your education? What are your educational goals? Are you currently enrolled in school? Number 5, military. Have you ever been in the military? If yes, what branch? Were you ever decorated? Are you eligible for benefits? Type of discharge, that's, I think, important. Employment, employer name, and there's the address. Gross income per week. Date of employment, list of other income as well. If you're employed, please describe your position here. So how long do you plan on working where you're currently at? Do your employers and coworkers know you've been arrested? If yes, what do they think of that? This is where you start getting into more of that personal information that I think would be very difficult. Like what do they think about you being found guilty? And he's like, they think it's all rigged. It's a sham. It's a sham. It's all a sham. Oh, Thomas, am I not following you, Thomas? Making my morning in hospital so much better. Oh my gosh, Thomas. Oh, good luck to you. Absolutely. I think we all needed a little bit of a pick-me-up this morning. We definitely needed a pick-me-up this morning. Oh my gosh, I wish you well. I'm thinking of you. Take care. I'm thinking of you. All right, so please describe your relationship with your boss. And he's like, I'm the boss. That's funny. Yeah, it's all rigged. It's all rigged. Number 8, do you feel he or she does a good job? Please list your last 3 jobs. And so here, employer would be the people of the United States of America. Position president of the United States of America. This is difficult. Oh, ouch. It hurts me. It hurts me. All right, number 9. Have you ever been fired? Oh my goodness. Oh, what would we put here? Have we ever been fired? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Oh, you're most welcome, Thomas. I know, Skippy. I know. Oof, that's a tough one. Have your legal charges ever caused you to leave a job? Have you ever walked off the job without giving notice? Have you ever just quit going to a job? Do you have a license to drive a bus? Then we round out these really huge questions with, can you drive a bus? Oh, goodness. All right, all right. Well, he was impeached, so that's a good question. So if he was impeached, does that mean he was fired? I don't think so. That's a good question. Oh, I don't know. I'm gonna just put this in here. Maybe do a little research. Is being impeached twice the equivalent of being fired? But if you're fired, I mean, you no longer can come back, and he kept coming back. So, right. All right. I think it's good to note, though, that he was impeached. But I don't know. So next, financial. Please list all debts, including any support payments. That's the next one. The voters fired him. Well, he certainly wasn't reelected, was he? Persons in place owned. Please list assets and their value. Include checking, savings accounts, stocks, bonds, other investments, vehicles, home, stereo equipment. So you can list some stereo equipment. Gold toilets would be here, I think. Is that where we would put? I mean, stereo equipment, right? Gold toilets have to be the equivalent of stereo equipment. I don't know, everyone. I'm not sure. He was reprimanded on the job. Okay, yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. Reprimanded. All right, list your monthly bills and payment amounts, rent, electricity, phone, groceries, etc. How much did you earn in the last 12 months? National security goes here. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh, Mads. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right, here we go. In the past year, have you experienced any financial problems? Yes. About $500 million I had to pay. $500 million. Lawsuit. I was gonna help him. Out. 500. Oh goodness. All right. This page is gonna hurt him. I agree. But can someone else complete the forms for him? Yes, I think so. Performance improvement plan. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh, wow. Wow. All right. All right. I gotta pull myself together here. It's like Dr. Evil went to prison. It kind of is, everybody. And, again, I'm not making light of, what you have to do if you are a convicted felon. But I think it's okay to chuckle in generalities with a very public figure who wants to be in public. I think that's okay. Right, exactly. So this is right. There's so much more. There's so much more than that. Plus E. Jean Carroll, of course. I do not forget her. How can we forget her? Is it one L or two? Oh, I feel terrible. I have forgotten the number of L's. But all right, here we go. So marital history. Oh dear. Oh, first of all, number 10. During the past year, have you received any type of financial assistance, food stamps, WIC, disability, etc.? So I don't think we have. Can't afford his legal bills. Oh my goodness. All right, I'm gonna drink a little bit more of my coffee here. I'm gonna need 130,000 to Stormy. Yeah, but that wasn't in the last year. Well, it's like 420,000, right, to Cohen. GoFundMe, that's funny. All right. Here we go. Marital history, everybody. Yes, I think we all needed a moment to lighten up. A moment of brevity, all right? Are you currently in a relationship? Right. Spouse or significant other, full name, address, education level. If married, when? If divorced, when? Does she now or has she ever had psychological problems, alcohol or drug problems? All right. Okay. Has she ever been convicted of a crime? Yes or no? Prior marriages, so name of previous spouses, dates of marriage. All right. Number 12, children. Please list your children, name, date of birth, address, occupation. So, right. And, for me, I don't think I'm not necessarily cheering for Mr. Trump to have bad things happen to him. What I'm cheering for is for him to be treated like we treat every other defendant in the entire United States. It's complicated. I don't think he should have any exceptions just because he thinks he's special. I think he should have to fill out the forms. And these kinds of questions are difficult for any person. And every defendant has to fill them out. And that's how it should be. So that's kind of where I'm at. I have no malice. I think it's just, everyone should be treated the same. To some degree. I think there, of course, can be some exceptions, but come on now. Number 13. And I think, too, it also highlights what it is we ask of our defendants. So when we think of who in the United States gets convicted of a crime, and you think, all right, well, they only got 10 years or they only got 5 years. But then if you think about the other things that go along with the whole process of having all of this information, like Cohen had to fill this out and Weisselberg had to fill this stuff out. Not exactly the same form, but still similar information in order for the judge to agree to the plea agreements. So all of this information I think is important. So for us to recognize that this is how our process works. All right, have any of your children ever been convicted of a crime? Ooh, that's a good question. Ooh, I don't know. Has any of his children been? Does he list MAGA? That's a good question. The law pertains to everyone the same. Exactly. Well, no, Kristen. So I don't think, yes. Talked about that on MSNBC. Oh, excellent. Okay, not yet. Oh my goodness. I'm still terrified at what will happen to our country. I know. One step at a time, everybody. All right. Has the Department of Human Services been involved with your family? Yes or no? What religion are you? How often do you attend services? All right. I think the kids were only involved in the civil fraud case. All right. Yeah, and if that's just civil, then they should be good to go. Next up, we have leisure. Have you been active in any organizations or clubs during the past year, like church, clubs, sports? Ooh, his golf clubs would be included here, so that could be, and his awards. I wonder if he could include those too. It is hard to convict millionaires, exactly. But when you do, they need to fill out the forms just like everyone else. Number 14, companions. With whom do you spend most of your time with? So this would have to be his attorneys, right? To be his lawyers. Oh my goodness. All right. What types of things do you do with your friends? I sit in court. Number 15. Of the people you know, how many have never been in trouble with the law and have never engaged in criminal behavior? Oh, this is tough. This is tough because we have we've got the everyone in Georgia. All right, so we've got Giuliani, we've got Bannon, we've got Cohen, Weisselberg. Wow, so this is gonna be tough. Of the people you know, how many have never been in trouble with the law and have never engaged in criminal behavior? Did you put up a sticky note? Absolutely. Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. Absolutely. Yeah, I think so. All right, so let's just put this up. So we'll just write this down as pre-sentence investigation questions for convicted felons. How's that? Is that okay? He lies on this can get in trouble. Yes, he can. Yes, he can. See additional attachment. That's a pretty big question, though, isn't it? Who all has he not been? Is he allowed? Well, yeah. I mean, I think so. Now, my understanding of how Florida law works. So here's the deal. In Florida, everyone, let's talk about that for a minute. So in Florida, if you're in Florida, I don't think if you're a convicted felon, you can vote. But if you're in New York, Florida says do whatever that state's law is. And in New York, you have to wait until, I think in Florida, you have to finish your sentence. Right, I think you have to finish your sentence. But the thing is if he is sentenced, he would be in prison. If he was sentenced to prison, he'd be in prison in New York during the election. And you can't vote when you're in prison. So that's really the whole thing. Right. Finish jail time. Got you. Yeah, so if you're in prison, you can't vote. And I think if he gets sentenced, he would be in prison in November. Right. But who knows what'll happen again? Who knows? All right. How many of your friends have never been in trouble with the law and have never been involved in criminal behavior? Never. That's tough. That's a tough one. Finish your sentence, pay all your fines, and try to get off your record. Okay, excellent. Okay, very good. All right, health. Have you ever been seriously ill? Are you healthy now? List present medical problems or disabilities. Are you currently taking medications? Mental health. Have you ever had a psychiatric evaluation or diagnosis? Depression, OCD, etc. In the past year, have you had any kind of counseling or treatment, including chemical dependency? Right. Thank you, VC. Well said. That's what I was saying in my mind, but I don't think I said it. Have you ever tried to, we don't like that. No, we don't like that. Chemical use was the use of or possession of drugs and alcohol involved in this offense. So that's pretty standard information. Please describe any chemical dependency, treatment, or education experience. Have you ever been in detox? If yes, when? Please describe any past use or experimentation. When was your last use of alcohol and drugs? Again, we are on an 18 plus, just for anyone who's wondering. Present offense. Please tell your version of the offense, how you became involved, and the circumstances leading up to it. Use additional paper if necessary. So I think this is going to be tough. This one's going to be a difficult one. Tell your version of the offense. So I don't know, everybody. He's like, I paid my lawyer legal expenses, and the President of the United States told the New York District Attorney to charge me with New York law in order to keep me from running against the president. So, because somehow the President of the United States has some power over New York state law when it comes to falsifying information on New York business documents. I don't know how it's going to go. Whatever it is, I didn't do it. Oh my goodness. Chat GPT asked the chat. Oh my gosh. Oh wow. This one's going to be tough. This one's going to be real tough. Joe Biden sham. Oh, that's right. We only have to have like 3 words, right? Rigged. rigged. He's going to write. Oh my gosh. Okay, so the entire justice system is rigged against me. I want this to be publicly available just for his response. Oh, I know, Matt. I know. I know. I didn't do it. It wasn't me. Let's see. Well, if he doesn't go behind bars, he doesn't go behind bars. That's all right. I mean, whatever happens. Judge Merchan will make the best decision that he can based off of his experience. And he's a very well-seasoned judge. I have no problem with that. But I was set up. No, I was. Okay, conspiracy involving the President of the United States. Every time I say it, it just is like, come on, man. Don't forget Judge Merchan is crooked, right? And he pulled a judge in when the judge was just a child and wooed him and brought him in from another country and got him ready just to hear my case when he grew up. Oh my goodness gracious. So these are just right. These are just some. The verdict was enough. Well, there you have it, Jennifer. I agree. Well seasoned, exactly. I agree. Whatever the judge decides, that's what the judge decides. Can his attorney complete the form for him? So as long as the information's accurate, I don't see why not. And sometimes, we help our clients, but when it comes to this kind of information, the process of actually going through it and filling it out is part of the steps that you have to do now that you have been convicted. So I've never filled out these forms for my client ever. I have always said, you need to sit down and fill this out. This is, what you need to, you need to do it. I'm not going to do it. Have you ever tried to blackmail another country? Oh my goodness gracious. All right. So it started 45 years ago. They don't have 4-5 crayons. Well, could be. All right. And this will be the last page here. I've just got other jurisdictions, but this is the last page here of the packet of information here. How can you right the wrong of your offense? Oh, wow. What would that answer be? How can you right the wrong? What are the courts going to be looking for here? Well, they're going to look to the totality. They're going to look to all of the answers and weigh it out and say, when we look to see what the most appropriate accountability is, we look and see, is he going to do it again? Is this something he's done repeatedly? What level of harm was done? Who was harmed? What kind of malice was involved? Did he have noticed that what he was doing was wrong and he chose to disregard it? Does he feel bad for it? All of those kinds of things will be taken in to consideration. And the judge will look to the totality. So it's not just 1 or 2 things. He'll look at everything and then make the best decision on what, based off of his 20 plus years experience as a judge, what the best level of accountability would be for him. He's going to write I'm innocent. Yeah, the remorse element's really big. That's a really big piece. So name of others involved. How long were you in jail? How much was your bond? Name of your present attorney, court appointed or private, and attitudes and orientation. Oh my gosh. What do you think of crime in general? Like he's against it. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about your criminal behavior? And he's going to say hoax, rigged. Is there ever a good reason to break the law? And he will say, yes, for fraud, the Constitution doesn't apply. All right, that's dark. That turned dark, everybody. I apologize. But only when certain groups, right, need extra pages. This will force him to acknowledge his crime or argue with the probation officer. Exactly right. So part of this whole thing isn't necessarily what the end result will be, but it's the process of him going through and filling out the answers, or having his attorney do it. But his attorney, honestly, if Todd Blanche is sitting next to him, his attorney is going to have to ask him questions like, how can you right the wrong of your offense? You're gonna have to get, sometimes the truth is dark. It's a true story. He's going to have to go through this process. He's going to have to fill out as much of this paperwork as possible. And the process of him going through and looking at this is part of that ownership process. Anyone can go half a billion. I know. I wanted to do a weekend. Well, yeah. I mean, for me, again, it doesn't matter what the sentence itself is. The fact that he is going through what every other defendant in the United States who has been convicted of a crime has to go through. Like, he is not special because he says it wasn't a crime. Like, everybody says it wasn't a crime. Like, you're not special. Will we see how this is filled out? I do not know. This information would not be generally made public, in my opinion. It would be available to the government staff and the government people that need to have it, as well as the judge. It may be put into a court filing that would make it public, so that is possible. That would be the route that this would be made public, as if it went in through the court process. Most beautiful paperwork I've ever seen. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, the Sharpie would be out. Well, I think it's important, everyone, that we watch this process. This process from beginning to end it's difficult. And, we make light of it in order to get through the day. It's a coping mechanism. And when he was arrested in New York, and, Jim Jordan has been so awful against D.A. Bragg that there were defamation lawsuits filed against Jim Jordan. And I mean, people forget that D.A. Bragg has been under attack for years because of this, and just malicious, and it's been awful. So the prosecutors in this case, Joe Tacopina was like, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. I'll see you later. There's been a lot of drama surrounding this case for years and years. And so, for some it might be, oh, look, he was found guilty. But for others, it's like, gosh, I've been on this, it seems like, for 85 years now. And it's been very difficult. Yes, normal people do get appeals. And what I think a lot of people will understand after this is that you should, research that. Look into that. Look into what appeals you should be able to have. Gives a probation officer a hard time. Can the judge consider that? Yes, absolutely. He absolutely can. And he also, and he already made statements during the contempt hearings where the judge was like, look, I don't know what it's going to take for you to knock off this bad behavior. You're not listening. Like, you want me to put you in jail. I don't want to put you in jail, but I don't know what else it's going to take for you to figure out that, there are rules. All of us have rules that we have to follow, just basic rules. And, he's not exempt just because he's Mr. Trump. Catch up all over the paperwork. Well, perhaps. Admitting guilt if he intends to appeal. Well, that is a big part of it. But a lot of times on appeal, you're saying, they screwed this up. So you're not going to want to admit it, because if you admit it, then you wouldn't have a chance for an appeal. So typically you have to admit guilt if you want to be on a probation or something like that, or you want your sentence to be reduced. If you want extra good time, or time off for good behavior, you have to admit that, you did the crime and you feel bad about it and you want to make amends. Those kinds of things. But if you're appealing, you're saying like, no, there was a mess. Something got screwed up and I disagree with all of this. So yeah, without any consequences. And that's the thing, is that there are consequences, but consequences look different. They look very different. Some consequences are having to sit down and fill out this form. This is a consequence. Another consequence is having to sign these waivers where a random person now, the probation officer, has access to all of his private information. That's another consequence. Have you seen anyone be so remorseless? Yes, I have. But typically it's people who are, honestly, people who are psychopaths who just don't have the ability to be remorseful. So they don't recognize the wrong, the right, and the wrong. So they don't have that part of them. They're like, well, I didn't do anything wrong, just because they don't have that in their mind, that they can't acknowledge that they could do anything wrong, and that's the level of psychological problems. In my opinion, I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but those are the situations. There have been some situations before in the world, in the US, where people have said, I just didn't do it. I did not do it. For me, I've not seen that. The only situations I personally have seen have been when people have been psychopaths and just will not acknowledge any kind of wrongdoing. That's my personal experience. But I'm not saying that there aren't people out there that have said they didn't do it and actually didn't do it. There are people that I believe are in that situation, absolutely. And I have full support of the Innocence Project, like the Real Innocence Project, not the LA Innocence Project with Mr. Peterson. Full support of that. So full support. And I've donated my time and energy as much as I can to that. So I have to say that there are those situations, but for me personally, I've not seen it. Right, I've just not seen it. Daryl Brooks, yeah, I think that's a good example. Tried to get the Innocence Project on board. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they would. Well, who knows? Who knows? But the Innocence Project, the True Innocence Project, their ethics are so high. I have nothing but respect for them. If I disagree with what they're doing or how they're handling something, it is a professional disagreement. It has nothing to do with their ethics. I've been so impressed with how they handle things. Low empathy, exactly, Sarah, or no empathy, and that's a sign of something's not right if you don't have the ability to have empathy. Search and seizure at any time. That's right. That's right. And, I went through one of the forms where it says those rights under the Privacy Act, you no longer have those rights anymore. That's why ACLU is so important. Absolutely. Absolutely. Although, honestly, there have been a few cases where I've disagreed with the ACLU, and I think that's okay. I mean, I think the ACLU would be the first group to say, please disagree with us. That's okay. I wrote to them about yes, well, and it takes a while. They're backlogged. I mean, they've got a lot going on. So, but yeah, I think that they're a good organization. So what I'm trying to say is that it's not that it doesn't happen. I don't live in la land, but for this case, and the cases that I have personally seen, I've not seen it yet. Other prejudice where you don't have empathy for certain people. Exactly right. Yep. What does this form do to the judge? So, good question. And I don't know. I don't know exactly what the scheduling is for his pre-sentence investigation stuff. They have to have time to pull all these forms. Again, just to give you a little peek here these are just example forms. This is not the exact paperwork he's going to be filling out. Again, I didn't think that would be appropriate for me here to sit down and go through. Can the judge order a psych eval? Of course. Of course he can. And if he has grounds, and he's the only one that can assess that situation. Now, the state can request a psych eval, and the defense can reject that request and be against it, and they can have a hearing about whether or not to have the psych eval, and then the judge will make the ultimate decision. But I think that the state in this situation are going to really be very delicate in how they're handling the rest of this process. So I would be, it is a lot. Exactly, Kristen. So I would be surprised if they make too big of a hullabaloo. I think the most important thing for the state is that everybody is protected and safe, and that the process keeps moving forward. So I think anything that hinders that, the state will bring up as an issue. But this is a huge blow to him. This is going to be enormous. So the consequences have already started. Would that be like a state-appointed psychologist? So that's a good question. And usually what happens is, the defense can actually get their own. They can say they want their own psychologist to do it, or you can have, there's usually like a panel or a group of psychologists or psychiatrists that are used just to do these kinds of evaluations. And so they just kind of pick from this list of many that have been proven to have done a good job. So that could be as well. Accurate psych evaluation that isn't from, oh my gosh, Ronnie Jackson. Oh my goodness gracious. So yes, that could be part of it. But then again, we don't have a case here where we've got forcible felony type situation where there's a history of multiple other levels to it. We have false information on business records. And so we have to kind of keep that in check here, keep that in mind. We have a low-level felony, although they are felonies, and rightfully so. It's a Class E felony, it's not a Class A felony. So those normal high-level things that a lot of people are thinking about are just not appropriate when you have more of a lower level felony at this kind of a situation. There are things that everyone needs to go through, but as far as like a psych eval and stuff like that, I really can't say, if that's going to be required or not. Oh, I do see my toner is dying. Oh my goodness gracious, everybody. So there was one thing in here that, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to reprint. I'm gonna have to shake the toner, everybody. Will his records from Walter Reed be included? Yes, and he'll have to waive his any of his privacy. So he's going to have to sign the forms in order to give access to them. So what I noticed here, this is newyorkcourts.gov. And if you want to see what actually goes on here in New York in his jurisdiction, you can go to nycourts.gov and you can kind of go through these sheets here or go through the program that they have there. But there was something that I had thought was important. Oh, right. So they kind of set out what some of the possible sentences can be. And we've got like a conditional discharge, a fine, probation, restitution, unconditional discharge, imprisonment, indeterminate and determinate sentences, split sentences, concurrent sentence, consecutive sentence, repeat offenders. So those are some of our options. But there was another thing in here. Here it is, the DNA data bank. Since 2012, any defendant convicted of a misdemeanor or felony must give a DNA sample to be added to the New York State DNA database. They'll also be required to pay a fee. The court requires the defendant to pay the data bank fee. The defendant does not need to provide a new DNA sample, then you don't have to. So this was something else that I thought was really important. He will, of course, he has to give a DNA sample, and that will be put into the state database. So his DNA will be on file then. So that is something that's required in the New York State. I would say he probably will be required to take a drug test. They always want to have kind of that base test because no matter what happens in the future, they want to have, they need to have some kind of a test on file, I would imagine. Right. Constitutional national security. Right. Good questions. I mean, it's a lot, everybody. And again, when we're wondering accountability, we are there. When you're saying he should have accountability, we are walking down the road of accountability right now. And he will be walking down the road of accountability for the rest of his life, just from this case. If he appeals it, fine. He still has to fill out all of this paperwork. He still has to go in front of the judge and get sentenced. That appeal's not going to stop any of this. He still has to go through all of these different consequences. So because of this guilty verdict, no matter what else happens in his life, the accountability will be raining down on him forever. So that's the thing. And maybe you want accountability to look different. I understand. Or maybe you want accountability for the DC case or the Florida documents case or for Rico in Georgia. Maybe you want that. That's fine. But if you were wondering, will he ever face accountability? He is right now. Access the DNA. I'm not sure. They would have to have a court order. They'd have to have a court order for that. And I'm not sure that our two systems, our civil and our criminal system, would cross. It's possible, but it would take a lot in order for a judge to grant that. All 34 are felonies, yes. Yeah, probably not for a civil case, but it's possible. Could she file paternity? Yes. In your opinion, what's the likelihood of conviction being overturned? I don't know. I don't know. I would say the possibility of conviction being overturned before he is sentenced and has to serve his sentence, like zero. I mean, the amount of time that it takes to walk a case up through the appeals process, have all of the briefs and everything taken care of, and then appealed again and appealed again, the time that it would take, he will have his sentence given and probably served. So for me, it doesn't matter. I know that doesn't sound quite right, but I don't care. For me, it's the accountability, and for me, that's been served up. I cannot think of the appellate process turns so slowly, and you can ask any defendant about that. Thank you, Beth, about how slow the process works, and it just is incredibly slow. It could take years, yeah, absolutely. And it may not even be finished in his lifetime. So we just don't even know. There's no way to know. Giving DNA and then agreed right before trial. I know that was a strategy. They let Bannon out pending appeal. True, but then he lost his appeal and now he needs to go back in. So that was a little bit different situation. With that, he had lying to Congress or failing to comply with a subpoena. It's a little bit different than 34 felony counts. SCOTUS finds him immune. Well, SCOTUS can't find him immune. Like a president can't be charged with any crime. I'm not sure how that would work with a state law for falsifying information on business documents. I'm just not sure how that would work. I can't see it. There may be some wild immunity issues that somehow, Alito and Thomas decide to get together and make as a way to, deal with their childhood issues. But I cannot figure out how that would affect a New York State felony charge. Will they be made public? If it's put into the court file, it will be. Right, it all happened prior to him becoming president, but the checks were paid while he was president. So the acts themselves, the checks, the documents were filled out when he was president. So I just don't know how that would even work. Classified documents issues addressed in this case or not? No. Nope. No, each of these cases is very distinct, with the exception of DC and Georgia. Those two could be sisters, but other than that, the cases are each, well, you know what I'm saying, Kelly, right? You know what I'm saying. That's the president's king, pardon himself. Not in New York, not in Georgia either. He still has, and keep this in mind, everybody, too, and DC and Florida are federal cases. Classified documents, and only Mr. Trump was charged so far in DC, although many others could be charged later on. Those two are federal cases, and it's possible for a president, once the case is done, to pardon the case, and it's also possible for him to somehow interfere with the Justice Department doing their job. That is possible. But in Georgia and in New York, those are state cases. Those are outside of his realm. And as well as his immunity coming in. And the Supreme Court's already held immunity for state criminal situations is not applicable, that he doesn't have that kind of immunity. So, we don't have to deal with that. So when it comes to New York and Georgia, we're not going to be dealing with those kinds of issues. He cannot pardon himself. The other ones, it's more like wow, is he really going to do that? And then some people say that's an impeachable offense. And so if he does pardon himself, he could immediately be impeached. So who knows what happens if he doesn't comply with the pre-sentencing stuff? Well, that's the thing. That's what's so interesting about the law, everyone, is that you can play hardball as much as you want, but in the end, you can fight the law, but the law will win, and the law will come for you. So that's the thing. He can fight it all he wants, and they may try to do accommodations to be like, what's the quickest way to get to the end goal, which is one of the things we try to do in the legal world. What's the quickest way to get to the end goal, even though this process is so slow? But so they may try to figure out a way to make it, a little bit easier for him to do what he needs to do. But in the end, he has got to follow the rules. Oh my gosh, Kelly, thank you so much. You don't follow the rules, then, bad things happen. Bad things happen, and the judge will pull you into line. And the judge has said that previously as well. You have to follow it out. Right, if people vote, he won't be in a position to pardon anything. Well, right, exactly right. So, right, you have to vote. The voting's the most, come on, it's so important. It's so important. Fix the law that requires honest legislation. Oh, it does seem to be impossible. We can't seem to get anything done right now. And so it's disheartening. I agree, it's disheartening right now. It's just that we've got bad people in high positions. And I think we have too many bad people in high positions. Before, if you have just a couple, you're like, oh, all right, let's take care of it. But when there's too many, like, flocking together in order to survive, it's disheartening. I agree. But, again, the only way to pull them apart is to vote. So that's the key. You got to vote. Everybody. And if people want to vote to keep them in, then, that's democracy for you right there. Let's see, diversity. Well, I think we have problems. I'm not particularly worried, because we seem to have this country. We cycle through these kinds of major issues. Supreme Court Justice flying Israel. Well, right. Alito and Thomas, but that's really always been, in my opinion, the Supreme Court has always been the weakest link because of the accountability factor. And that's always been there. And we've been debating that in the legal field for decades. Those of us that are whispering quietly in a closet so nobody can see us, and we're saying like, I think the Supreme Court's got too much power. And like, what? No way. So we kind of have to, hush, down low it. But yeah, it's an issue. But now that the people are starting to talk about it, I think that's amazing, because when you start to talk about it, then that's when the change can happen. If he's convicted in other cases, will it revoke probation? No, I don't believe so. Because each one is a hugely separate jurisdiction, they're all on different roads. So the train tracks won't cross for his cases. Meant to be autocratic. It really wasn't. It wasn't. And, the amount of prestige has been, I have to watch myself a little bit, because I can go off on that one. Plenty more crimes he's done. Yes, lots and lots. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, quite a bit. Yes, sometimes I have to remember. No. Watch the hearing with Robert. Really? 2022. Interesting. Legislative branch make ethics laws regarding the Supreme Court. Well, ultimately, it was the intent of James Madison and the original drafters that Congress would check the Supreme Court. And it wasn't until John Marshall came in later, after the Constitution was ratified, that said, maybe not as much of a check, maybe more like half of a check. And since then, it's been fine, but, Congress needs to figure stuff out. But Congress is so jacked up right now, there's not much they can really do. So glad Hawk said, I'm so glad too. Yeah, we love Hawk. Oh, he is just so fun. Had a great live with him the other night with Falcon. That was so much fun. Very, very fun. So it's a good time. Absolutely. So with that, everyone, I am checking out the clock here, and I am trying to keep my live just a little bit shorter, because I will be going live again tonight, everyone. I know, 3 equal branches. I know, I agree. I will be going live again tonight. So I've got a couple different options of what I can go through. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to get Georgia sorted out. Oh, Georgia's been on my mind, but we will see. I'm not sure exactly what I will be going over tonight, but we will be doing my Sub Chat Sunday. that just means I turn my chat to my subscribers only, and I only do that on Sunday nights. So I will be doing that tonight when I come back on, and we will have a fun topic to go through. So I will be. Let's do Georgia. Should we do Georgia? Should we do an overview of Georgia? I don't know. I know Georgia. Oh my gosh. I know. Maybe we should do. All right. Maybe we should. Maybe. All right. Let me see what I can do. I'll see what I can do. It's kind of yikes. Georgia's getting a little bit. Georgia's. I don't know. Maybe we'll do kind of a recap. Georgia. I know. Right. Okay. And Florida too. I know. There's been some stuff. So, and we do have new filing out of Florida. So that's kind of my question too, if we want to do kind of a catch up on Georgia or if we want to do the new filing out of Florida. Thank you so much, Suze. I appreciate that. So we'll see how the day goes for me. Georgia's just, it's getting a lot to get it untangled. It's a bit of a tangle. Well, and we had 2 hearings too over the last week. I keep saying goodbye, but then I keep babbling. We had 2 hearings, Thursday and Friday were hearing days, so I've not been able to get through all of those hearings, so that was something I wanted to do before I did Georgia. So we'll see. We'll see how things go. Yeah, hang in there, Thomas. Good luck to you. I hope the rest of your day goes okay. But I'll sign off for now, everyone, and I will see you all later tonight. So take care and have a great rest of your day, everyone.